Maybe.
What?
Yeah, it depends. Stephanie said we really don't have any other time. I'm like, well, we're just gonna have to be creative then.
I know, man. We're kind of in the same boat. We've got family vacation, but obviously, right, Emily going to Tennessee affected that. We tried to, you know,
Yeah,
navigate it to facilitate all that. But
yeah.
I mean, they're getting settled in, and that's probably not gonna work for them. But we're like, oh, when are we gonna do it?
I know, right? It's frustrating. It's one of those deals where it's like I told Stephanie, I said the thing that makes me mad is, we go into the summer and I said, so what we did was we thought, well, you know what, Audrey's in Fiji and Avery's at camp this week, so that's why this week was going to be a good week for us,
Sure, right.
So doggone it, here we are in a, you know, here we are like in a week where we could actually just do her and I, and that's not going to work. And
That's
so,
not gonna work.
yeah,
Man, that's a bummer.
yeah.
You know what we did yesterday?
What is it?
We drove up to Canada.
No way.
We did.
Huh.
We drove up to Point Edward, Canada.
What?
It's about a 2-hour drive for us,
Uh-huh.
which is it's not terrible.
You just
And
go through Windsor or something like that?
so you just go straight up to Detroit
Uh-huh.
and just keep going north on 96,
Uh-huh.
94,
Okay.
94 maybe. And you go up to Port Huron
Oh, okay. Yeah.
and cross the bridge from Port Huron right over into uh,
Huh.
w
Oh,
Point Edward.
Canada. Huh.
Yeah. So neat little city, neat little area. It's got some cool stuff. Port Huron is or Lake Huron is beautiful.
I know, right?
It's gorgeous, man.
Lake
Yeah,
Huron is
I've
Lake
never been
Huron
there.
is how far north of Detroit?
It's probably from like downtown, it's probably like 45 minutes maybe.
Wow. Did you cross like a little lake or something or a
So there's Lake St. Clair,
yeah.
which is the lake right by Detroit.
Yeah. Just north?
Yeah, just right there. And so no, so you kinda go around and just go straight. I mean, like, bro, it's like just a straight shot.
Yeah.
Super cool. Super cool place.
I I I was pulling up some like Lake Huron pictures
Yeah.
and I'm like, dude, why does it look like the water is aqua?
Bro, literally, like, it's so ridiculously clear. It's unbelievable. It's similar to, like, which Lake Michigan's kinda gone through a transformation the last several years, but the western coast of Michigan, Lake Michigan's super clear, super blue waters, whatever. So that it's actually called, the bridge to go into Canada is actually called Blue Waters Bridge.
Oh, okay.
So, like, that's kind of a thing, but I didn't realize how huge Lake Huron is. Like, it goes all the way up to Mackinac and
Yeah.
way up north, and so it's a massive deal, and what was
There's one
cool
of
was
them.
on the Canada side,
Mhm.
it wasn't a super busy, like, so in Port Huron, it would the beaches, like, there aren't a ton of beaches, and we
Yeah.
just kinda drove by, but it was jam-packed. Everywhere you went, it was, like, just jam-packed. Canada, not so much.
What?
So maybe some of our Canadian people can tell us, like, what's up with that? Like, they don't do the beach thing or what's going on?
Canadians, they made well, I don't know. Maybe they're mourning the end of the NHL season.
An
Some
American team won,
yeah.
or I don't know if they've won. Did they win it
Florida,
yet?
not just American team,
Right,
Florida.
right, right, right. Did they win it or is it there's about to be won? I don't even
Yeah.
know.
I don't know. Well, it's
Have a
like the
tipping on
second
it.
game. It's like the second game of the Mavericks Celtics series. I mean, in
Right.
this middle of the second game, it was about to be won.
That is true. That is very true. So I'm sharing this here,
Yeah.
and I somehow accidentally clicked out of the share button,
Okay.
and I don't know who I shared it to and who I didn't, and it doesn't show me, so I'm just sharing it again to everybody, so they may get it twice.
If you get it twice, that just shows you how much you're loved. Just
How much you need it.
hmm.
And can we just say, Kit, I gotta go. Sorry, I gotta go live on Graham. I always forget that, doggone it. Today you're gonna wanna be on.
Bruh.
Like
I
today's
mean,
today's gonna be fire.
far. Today's gonna be far.
Far. Oh, come on, man. I changed the key. Oops. Okay, let me try this again. Graham is wonky, bro.
Graham just does its own thing. Like,
It just does its own thing, and it's just. And I'm not being a boomer.
yeah, Graham says, "Oh, you're fitty. Here's how we gonna mess with you.
This is what we're gonna do to you.
You fitty."
There we go. I got it. Fixed and corrected. Oh, I got to go to Twitter. I'm sorry. I'm struggling a bit, and I pull up Twitter, and the first thing that I see is, I don't know if you saw it. So the Cubs are terrible this year, right?
Yeah.
And last night they were up 6-3 in the 8th,
Yeah.
or 7th. Then it was 6-4. So it's 3 outs,
Yeah.
whatever. And dude gave up a 3-run jack to lose the game.
Unreal.
So the first tweet that I saw was, "This is all Cubs fans," and it was Rory walking out after DeChambeau hit the putt.
Rory said he's going to take a little break. He's just stepping back.
I bet he is. I bet he's taking a break. Oh, bless his heart.
The phrase is, I think the phrase is, he soiled his
Wow. Oh, man. Like, okay, in a moment, I don't know, like, DeChambeau kind of reinvented himself a little bit. So I was like, I could get behind this guy who's
I like the new DeChambeau.
He's pounding the ball and he's, pumping up the crowd and just whatever. So I was kind of rooting for him. And then, man, when Rory missed those putts, bro,
Yeah.
like my stomach I was like, oh.
I think probably because we can relate.
Absolutely. I was thinking, I told Reese, I said, like, okay, think about us. We go out and play golf, and then at night at home, you're like rethinking every shot. Like,
Yeah.
man, I could have.
If I wouldn't have done that,
Yeah. Okay, imagine you just lost, whatever,
Yeah.
$10 million and like the most prestigious trophy you can win, and a major. Like, he can't have slept for like 3 days.
I know.
It's horrible.
He shouldn't have slept because of what he did 6 months ago, more than missing that putt. But
well, that's a whole different conversation.
Dude, he's getting trolled horrible by Liv.
Can you imagine?
Oh my God. They're just,
imagine?
Oh my word.
Crazy.
It showed a picture of Amanda Balionis interviewing him, and it says, "Oh snap, Roy lost twice this week."
Oh,
like,
no.
Oh my God in
No,
heaven.
no. That is crazy. Oh man. Yeah, it's Twitter especially is just a ruthless place.
Jeez. It's ruthless.
So I would encourage Rory to stay off of Twitter for a couple days.
Rory, if you're listening to our podcast,
Which I'm sure he does. I'm sure he does.
we're going to be talking today about pain tolerance.
Pain tolerance.
Pain tolerance.
I think it's a good time, Ken, just to mention we have played golf in Northern Ireland.
We have actually we played golf at the course that Rory won his first Irish Open.
Ardglass.
Ardglass.
Man, what a great course. And we played it. No, but I don't think anybody's ever played it in conditions like we played it.
I know, right?
And I just want to say, I'll just this little pre-show information. People are going to think this is not accurate, Ken.
Okay.
But this is a true story. This is not evangelistic. I'm not adding to it. Like, this is a legit story.
Okay.
I saw my brother hit a 500-yard drive.
Well, there are some factors.
But is it true?
It is true.
It is true. The hole was probably close to 400.
Yeah.
And we had like 70 to 90 mile an hour wind gusts behind us because there was a hurricane coming off the ocean.
It's very true. It was hurricane. It was gale force winds. I launched the ball high, hit it well. Yeah, I hit it well. And the wind said, "I'll take that. Thank you very much." And it
drove it over the green, past the next fairway, into some rocks, bounced off the rocks and into the ocean. Literally the greatest shot I've ever seen in my life.
It was one that I was proud to hit OB.
We celebrated that one, didn't we?
Yeah. You gave me a hole in one on the scorecard.
Oh man, that was
No,
crazy. You can't beat that. Greatest shot I've ever seen. It was the bomb of a lifetime. And it wasn't like we teed up 3 shots and tried to bomb it. Like, that was just your drive. You just went DeChambeau on
it. For real. That's what the thing I like about DeChambeau is his swing is unorthodox, bro.
Oh, it's violent.
And it's not pretty.
It's so fast. Like, it's crazy how, like, usually they talk about rhythm and whatever.
Yeah.
Like, he's like just bring it back as much as you can. And
stiff, like in his, it's like the anti-Cantlay swing.
Totally. 100%. 100%. We could give some golf breakdown and golf analysis.
It's true.
Talk a little bit about Pinehurst and
we could talk about what was going on in Rory's mind over that 18th hole putt, because I looked at Stephanie and said, I could have missed that. Sure.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. It was a much harder putt than it looks. The 15th hole was the one. Yeah, that's the one you got to hit. He just missed that.
But DeChambeau missed the exact putt. Like,
that's true.
So it's like,
that is true.
Hey, we got Chief Meteorologist Ken Bistarkey.
Yeah, give us a little weather report today, Ken.
Currently 83 degrees with a high of 93. It's going to be a hot one out there, says Chief Meteorologist Ken Bistarkey. Thanks for checking in, Ken.
And he also says, today's podcast will match the weather. Fire. It's awesome. All right.
I think we're call 911. We're getting ready to go 3, 2, 1.
Ooh, my God in heaven. And today is going to be fire. This is going to be a good. I feel like today is going to be I think it's going to be relevant to anybody and everybody. And I think it's an important one. Whether you're a pastor or
this is very true.
Just a child of God, disciple maker. And so I think if you get a chance, hit the share button, peeps. Get the word out. Tell people we are live and we are rocking and rolling. We've got somebody on every platform right now, Ken.
For real.
How about that?
That's what I'm saying.
Good stuff.
We say share it like a cup of Kool-Aid in a Odin backyard tennis ball game.
I love it. I'm sure that's relevant for people.
Everybody came out with gallon jugs.
Oh,
They would make
yeah.
Kool-Aid at their house and come out with gallon jugs. There was probably some kind of we probably got immune to some kind of a I mean, who knows if they were milk jugs. I mean,
Yeah,
who
milk
knows if they
jugs.
washed them out good? They probably just like
Oh, I
rinsed them
guarantee you
out.
they didn't. No, not a chance they did.
It's got like listeria in it.
And we always had at least 100 packets of Kool-Aid available at all times.
For
Like,
real.
it was ready to go. Gotta throw the grape Kool-Aid, man. You just can't
Dude,
go wrong with grape Kool-Aid.
dude. We go to the hey,
I
we
may
would
go get some today just
I
because.
know, I know. We go to the store. We go to the store and they would have the
Yeah.
packets, and we were like going through the packets like, "Oh, look, I found a, whatever." Did you hey,
And we'd
how
throw
about
out the lime we'd throw out the lime ones.
yeah.
Uh,
How about the Kool-Aid at Rita's? The
yeah.
Kool-Aid, I sent you that Kool-Aid.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
they had
That
that
is
flavor.
awesome. And you were the king of Tang.
I don't know if I thought it was healthy or what. It certainly didn't taste good.
It did not taste good at all, but we loved it, man.
Mm.
I remember very vividly I've got a memory, like, etched in my brain. We're in the kitchen in our trailer in Odin, and you're fixing me a glass of Tang in the morning. We're getting ready to watch, like, This Week in Baseball or something on a Saturday morning.
This week in baseball, they had
That was the best.
it was the best, and they had the bloopers, the best plays.
Mel Allen, the greatest. What a great voice, and, oh, man. Getting a little nostalgic.
Yeah,
Alright, you ready to go?
yeah. Just let me search up this week in baseball real fast. I wonder if they got a little bit of.
Got some
Here's a
music.
video. I want to hear it. Oh wow, 9184. This week in baseball, 9184, and the cover. Here, see.
Oh, there's that voice.
Two pop artists in the Big Apple compete for the top prize by matching stroke for stroke. A demand for tickets to the exhibition displays still life in the Kansas City picture.
Display fair life in the Kansas City picture.
Gary Gother, the theme song, bro. There it
Yeah.
was, the theme
Dun,
song,
dun,
man.
dun, dun.
Oh my goodness. That is amazing.
Crazy,
That
man.
is amazing.
I
Alright, you ready?
want some grape Kool-Aid.
Let's go. I'm gonna get some today.
Ah,
I'm gonna post that out there. Everybody go hit up the grape Kool-Aid today. Alright. You ready to go? 3, 2, 1?
I am. Yep.
Alright, here we go. 3, 2, 1. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Mobilized Church Podcast. This is Chris Dillingham, alongside my big brother Ken Dillingham Jr. the third. How we doing this morning, Ken? On a smoky, I mean, just smoking hot summer day today.
It's a kind of sweltering day that makes a middle-aged man want a game of jelly ball and some grape Kool-Aid out of an old milk jug.
Jelly ball. He busts out jelly ball.
Hey, if
Hey,
you've ever played jelly ball, people are like, jelly ball?
they don't know, bro. They
You
don't
can only
know
get them
about
from
no
Six
jelly ball.
Flags in St. Louis,
With the long yellow wiffle ball bat,
wrapped in 26 layers of duct tape.
oh, man, that's the only way. You
Yeah,
had to,
we
otherwise
counted them.
the bat would bend or crack or whatever, so
Yeah.
but jelly ball was the go, dude.
Jelly ball, here's the fun thing about jelly ball. The reason why it was so fun to play in the backyard is because if you hit it square, it would
Oh,
go.
yeah.
But if you hit it a little high on top of the bat or you missed it a little bit, it would just go, it would spin and it would just get about that wide and it wouldn't go anywhere and it would roll. And so when you played games, you played like 2-on-2 or 3-on-3 jelly ball. And it
Yeah.
was, the rules were if you catch it while it's still rolling, you're out.
Yeah.
It was fun because it would.
Double or nothing.
Yep. Yep.
Gotta go left side of the field,
Yep.
or if you're left-handed, you gotta go right side.
Yep. Yep. If it doesn't get past the pitcher, it's an out.
Now, which happened a lot in Jelly Ball because, like you said, if you didn't hit it square, just like it would be like and just land right in front of you.
Yeah. So if you hit one high, behind the pitcher. Sometimes the pitcher would stop and wait and let it hit the ground, and it would look like a Scotty Scheffler 100-yard wedge shot. It hit and go zip. Pitcher be like,
and then we'd all take a break and go drink grape Kool-Aid out of the same milk jug.
Oh. Somebody said the other day, you know why I didn't get COVID? And I said, why? And he said, because I drank water out of a water hose on my
straight out the hose. Straight out the hose.
All that petroleum and preservatives just
seals you on the inside.
Turned me into Mr. Roboto. You didn't know.
Again, going back to the 80s.
You didn't know. That's what I'm saying. You didn't know Mr. Roboto was from Cuba. Mr. Roboto.
That's so awesome, man. That is amazing. Sung by who? Do you know who?
You're the master of that, Bo.
I'm gonna say Styx. Was it Styx?
Really? This is a great opportunity for 500 bonus points. Somebody in our audience help us.
Somebody help us out.
Who did?
I feel like it's Styx. I'm gonna go Styx. That's my final answer. So somebody tell me if I got that one right. So pulling out the 1980s. There we go.
Styx.
Wow. There we go.
I've been singing to Avery that song. There's that. It's on I think it's on a commercial or something like that. And I've been saying to Avery, I love you, Avery. You know that I love you, baby.
Yeah.
It was funny because I was looking at that, and I obviously we grew up with, parents that listened to all that music back in the day when we were kids. Man. And so I thought that was a Barry Manilow song, but actually it's a Frankie Valli song.
Oh, remade, huh?
Mm-hmm. It's Barry Manilow.
Interesting.
Jimmy Tony, please do not sing again. I didn't sing. Jimmy, you didn't hear me. I wasn't singing, Bubba. That was just screeching.
That is amazing.
So to be accurate, say, please don't screech again.
That is so amazing, man. Oh yeah, we could go down. I remember I played for my kids, bro, the other day. Don't judge on this, but I played for my kids the other day, Basketball Jones, because dad had the had the record, and it was a Basketball Jones, Wild Cherry.
Jimmy Tony switched it to please don't screech again. For real. But Wild Cherry, most famous song.
Play that funky music, white boy.
I mean, hello.
Yeah. I remember that's kind of really all I remember is Wild Cherry and Bob Seger. He had the Bob Seger 8-track.
For real. Hey, you love that phrase where it says, lay down your boogie. Oh, I'm sorry. Jimmy Tony asked me to stop singing. My bad.
Stop screeching, man.
Stop screeching, bro.
Stop screeching.
Lay down your boogie.
That's awesome.
Play that funky music. And you would say, till you die. Yeah, till you die.
That is amazing.
They were like all of 6 or whatever, I guess.
Right?
Probably. Yeah.
The other one I remember was Tony Orlando and Dawn.
Tie a yellow ribbon around me. Right?
Something like that. I mean,
Jimmy Tony's going to stop. He's going to word up. My man is going to stop tuning in. He's like, dude, if you sing one more,
we need Jimmy Tony on to sing a little special for us. We're gonna have him sing a special.
I'm going to donate. I'm going to dedicate this song to Jimmy Tony. I've got you, babe.
Sonny and Cher.
Sonny and Cher.
That's
Wouldn't
awesome.
Jimmy Tony look awesome in a sunny mustache?
There's a picture out there, I'm sure of.
Oh man,
Jimmy
I'm gonna go
Tony
see
with
if
the
I can produce some
mustache.
AI art.
Oh, we need that. We need that. Sonny and Cher. Oh man, I thought you were gonna go Casey Kasem on us there for a second. America's Top 40.
Golly.
Again, a great voice, man. We've had a good morning. We've had Mel Allen, Casey Kasem, Tony Orlando, and Dawn. Bob Seger, Styx. Like, it's been all over the board, bro.
Man.
And Jimmy Tony.
Bob's and Jimmy Tony. We better be careful with Jimmy Tony though, because he's got the microphone. He's got the evening microphone.
Yeah.
And he's at the last microphone in the. We're going to be doing a meeting with him in Maryland, D.C. in a few weeks, and so we better be nice.
Better be nice.
We'll be nice.
We love Jimmy Tony.
That's for real.
We
I'll
love
take
Jimmy
him a peace
Tony.
offering.
Jimmy Tony's he's the GOAT.
I once told Jimmy Tony, I said, "Hey, I'm going to give you a piece of my mind." He said, "You can't afford to lose any of your mind, bro."
I believe that.
I have a piece to give.
For real. All right, let's get rocking and rolling.
All right, let's go.
You ready to go today? Today's gonna be a good, really good conversation, and I'm looking forward to this. I think it's something that has been, I don't know, something that I've recognized, particularly just in our setting, the importance of, for culture change and all that kind of stuff. So here's what we're gonna talk about, and I'm gonna really briefly set it up, Ken, and then I'll let you take it and just really launch it from here. But
like an hourglass drive.
Exactly. There you go. I'm going to be the gale force winds behind you. Just let you just bomb it away.
You're the wind beneath my wings.
Did you ever know?
Sorry.
Oh man, derailed already.
I'm sorry, my bad.
Derailed already. All right, so anybody that wants to be a disciple maker, or anybody wants to lead a disciple making movement, a cultural shift, a change in your church, a pastor who's like, man, I want to make a shift, or a person who says, you know what, man, I want to be a multiplying disciple maker. One of the things that you can guarantee is going to happen, Ken, is as you begin to make this shift, you're going to experience pain. Right? There's going to be resistance. There's going to be challenges. There's going to be difficulties. And even more so, I feel like that when you're making like a cultural shift, an operating system change, like there's a lot of pain. I remember years ago, when I worked in the corporate world, I worked for Solo. And one of my projects that I worked on with our IT team was we went from, this is really dating me, so I feel this is going to make me feel really old, but we went from kind of a DOS-based system to a Windows-based, like a complete change customer system that went to Windows. Obviously, it was significantly better. You know what I'm saying? Like it, you don't have to be a computer genius to figure out like this is going to give you way more opportunities. In the DOS system, you had to know like 47 different, command shift F3 G or whatever for different functions and actions. Windows took all that away, and it just gave us so much more, more flexibility and abilities, things to do, information, knowledge, numbers, all that kind of stuff. But when we launched it, when we implemented it, it was almost like a train wreck, bro. Things didn't work great, whatever. And everybody started screaming, we should never have done this. We should go back. And, the point is, change is hard, even if it's for the better, right? Even if this is going to be an improvement, change is hard. And a lot of times people are not willing to endure that because of that resistance, because of that change. So today we want to talk about is just quite simply that one of the keys to leading and facilitating change, being a change agent, personally, culturally, in a church context, whatever, is what level of pain tolerance do you have?
Wow.
How much pain can you endure? Are you willing to endure it? So I'm going to throw that to you and let you kind of get this conversation rocking and rolling today.
Dude, man, that's so good. And it's funny because you're talking about DOS, and the funny thing about it is there's an article I was looking at for, I think it appeared in like the, I don't know, Saturday Evening Post or something like that back I think in the early days of the gasoline vehicle. And it's funny how people they said stuff like, they said stuff like, if you want something that you're not going to have to push and keep pushing, then, get a horse or, whatever.
Right.
Like, it's so funny how when cars were first introduced, those skeptics, had all the reasons why cars were going to be so. That was, in fact, there was a season that there was so much momentum that I was reading about. It said, this article said that to even promote the idea of gasoline powered motorized, they called them motorized carriages.
Yeah.
It said, just get a horse. Pull your, the horse is, you got free grass and whatever.
Yeah.
All of those things were like, a car will never be any better than a horse and carriage. So why even mess with it?
Yeah.
There, well, obviously we know where that all ended up. But the interesting thing about it is it really kind of highlights what you just said with DOS and moving your system and people's reluctance to that and so on. So
Yeah.
I just think as we talk about this today, we discuss this. I think that kind of when we're talking about pain tolerance, what are we talking about? And so as an easy definition, we're saying pain tolerance is the capacity to endure physical, emotional, or spiritual discomfort. But for us, not only as Christians, but disciples, like in
Yeah.
our personal life, our
Yeah.
pain tolerance is our ability to let Jesus continue to, like for example, the rich young ruler. After Jesus is challenged to the rich young ruler, the Bible said he went away sorrowful because he was very rich.
Right.
The reason why he wasn't
Right.
willing to comply with the thing that Jesus was asking him to do is that he just didn't have the pain tolerance for what
Yeah.
Jesus was asking. So for us, for individual believers, but then also for leaders of movements or whatever, I think pain tolerance is a willingness to face the suffering that we endure with faith. It's the willingness to trust God, but I also think it's the willingness to be able to navigate the kind of changes that
Yeah.
keep us up to date with the challenges that are before us. David served his generation well. I think the inference is that 100 years after David, would David be a good leader? Well, he would if he could modify and move with the times. And so I think, what worked in 1950
Oh yeah.
might not
Yeah.
work
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
2024. And so we look at those things and we say, all right, so now, do you recognize the need for change? Do you have the tolerance for it?
Man, that's so good. And I think you bring up a great point because, we develop kind of an emotional attachment to things that we're familiar with, right? And I think a lot of it goes back to living in an unstable world
Yeah.
where there's a lot of insecurity, and we reach for things that provide some sense of security for us. So we connect, the way we've done church, we connect it to an emotional feeling of what, so now all of a sudden it's not just, again, it's hard. Sometimes I have to be careful because I'm not a person that has a lot of sentimentality to things. Like I don't get attached to things. I don't, whatever. I
Yeah.
just the way I'm made. And so I can at times be a little bit insensitive because I don't have that. I don't have that view. I don't have that
Mhm.
perspective. But a lot of times for people, it connects them to a time where they had great experiences with God, or
So
it
good.
represents a time where they had peace, or a simpler time, an easier time, or the best season of their life. And so they develop this kind of emotional attachment. So when you come along and be like, "Hey, we're gonna change this," sometimes there's there's an overreaction to that, not because people are necessarily against that, but because of what it represents to them in their
Yeah.
lives. And so for us as leaders, you know, it's understanding kind of where people are coming from, and the willingness to say, you know what, I believe that this is the right thing to do. This is the God thing to do. We're going to move forward with that. We know it's not going to be always popular. It's not always going to make
Yeah.
everybody happy, but
Yeah.
these are the things that we really need to do to move forward. And can you endure that little season where people are adjusting and they're dealing, they're processing that change and the implications of what it means to them? Can
Wow.
you effectively do that in a way that is healthy without coming it's sometimes our reaction is, you know, we're gonna fight fire with fire. We're just gonna hit it right up the nose
Yeah.
and deal with it, versus looking at it and be like, you know what? Some of it is I just have to be willing to endure some of the pain through this, because on the other side, as a visionary leader, and I say visionary, and I'm hesitant. We had a conversation with Dad on Father's Day, and we are just kind of talking about leadership and church things and whatever. And I said, you know, I'm not a I I don't want to overstate the importance of like casting vision, which we always talk about. I think vision is important, but when I talk about visionary leadership, I'm talking about a commitment to values
Yeah.
and an unwavering commitment to those values. And I think that's a key piece, Ken. We've got to have that unwavering commitment to a set of values that says, I'm willing to endure whatever is going to be produced as a byproduct of these values. I'm willing to endure that.
Man, that's so good. I think it's interesting to me as you're talking about that, you know, I think there's like 3 levels of change, or there's I say 3 levels of change. Maybe I should say 3 levels of change, like zones that either related to change. So for example, one would be the people who just don't want to, they just don't want to change. Like this,
Sure.
I like it. I like it like that, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
And I think that's important because like in, in change management, you know, one of the things that, you know, you talk about what causes a reluctance to change, and there are a lot of factors, right?
Sure.
A lot of people don't want to change because of the fear of unknown. Some people don't want to change because of loss of control,
Yeah.
or the perceived negative impacts of it. Some people don't want to change because they have overlaid what to them is comfortable or nostalgic
Sure.
with a religious veneer. Like sometimes the way that you can say hands off, you know, like no trespassing, stay off this, don't you dare try to change this,
Yeah.
is to connect it with some area of truth. Like
Sure.
like
Sure.
you're going to usher in the Antichrist with, you know, whatever. So the first thing is no, don't change. I think the second zone is the kind of change that's like it's sort of coordinated with that idea. The more things change, the more they stay the same.
Yeah.
And it's one of those deals where it's like, look, you can change whatever you want to change as long as you don't change anything. And like it's like what? Like it sounds like a dichotomy, but I know that there are a lot of places, a lot of people, a lot of churches or leaders that are in a place where it's like, look, people let you change the carpet. They'll let you change the paint. Let's change the look, but don't change like the structure.
Sure.
In other words, you could eventually convince people to take out the pews and put in chairs,
Yeah.
but don't take us out of this building.
Yeah.
And so there's levels. And then finally, I think there's a level of change that is basically, look, we got to do what we got to do. It's become, you know, imperative. And I think without that, there's got to be a value So what is the vision of the future? What is it based on? Well, you can't have change for change's sake. You can't just say, well, let's just change it. Just let's shake it up. Let's just do something different.
Yeah.
Well, doing something different is it could be either be let's just get out of the rut by doing something that has enough change to feel like it's new, but not enough change to create upheaval.
Yeah. Yeah.
Versus something that says, look, man, we're living in a world right now where the birth rate is outpacing the conversion rate. We're not even keeping up with, we're not even keeping up with, like, the growth of the church isn't keeping up with population. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
So, yeah. So I think that's the thing where, people sometimes they get their little, their candy stick or their thing, and they're like, they're going to hold on to that and make others comply. And I think leaders need to be able to, when you talk about casting a vision, need to be able to cast that vision that says, here's where we're going and here's why.
Absolutely. I think one of the other things too that I think it makes it difficult in the day that we live in is that things change so much quicker today than they used to.
That's a good point.
And I think a lot of times what that can do is so again, it can create a need to find stability.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Everything is just always adapting and changing. I mean, my goodness, you go buy a new iPhone, and by the time you walk out the store, you have this sense of like, oh man, in 6 months there's going to be a better one that comes out.
Yeah.
Or you buy a computer, like, what the next one's going to come out, and I'd be like, oh man, I wish I would have waited for that. Like, things change so quickly that I do think people reach for things that you can rely on, you can depend on. It's stable. I know what it is. And in a turbulent world, that becomes even more important. So then you come along and like, hey, we're going to start, we're going to lead change. And, when we're talking about change, obviously we're not talking about violating doctrinal biblical truths. I don't think we have to make that caveat, but I'll make it just in case. But we're not talking about, altering scripture because of the day that we're living in, which is a prevalent thing that's happening in our world today.
Yeah.
What we're talking about is adapting. And sometimes what we're saying is there are changes. There are places, Ken, where we have gotten away, particularly as it relates to the mission. We've gotten away from like the biblical model in some areas.
Sure.
And this is kind of the whole thing of what we're doing. So related to, the focus about creating a missional movement, we've created a culture of the consumeristic Christian. We've created a culture of membership where you come, sit on a pew, whatever. So then when we come along and say, you know what, that's not really the biblical way.
Yeah.
So you have a responsibility, and people are like, whoa, wait a minute. Like you're tearing away the one place that I have some stability where I know, like, this is what my responsibility is. This is what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna come and I'm gonna be a good saint. I'm not gonna cause trouble. I'm just gonna come and show up. And we're trying to change that paradigm and that dynamic. It does create some turbulence. And sometimes, like, we're not saying that it's coming with ill will or the intentions are wrong. We're just saying it does create that because of the things that you mentioned of why people are kind of resistant to change sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, when we talk about the connection between pain and change, what are those things? Like we've talked about what we're used to, right? Sometimes letting go of comfortable routines, sometimes letting go of habits, are difficult, right? It's difficult to, to break a habit. It's the funniest thing. We lived,
so true.
Chris, we've lived in the same house now for 10 years. And for probably 9 of the 10 years, the silverware was in one drawer.
Yeah.
To this day, now we've had it in a different drawer for a year now. But to this day, I will subconsciously reach in and open the drawer and see spatulas. It's the weirdest deal.
Who moved my forks?
And it's funny because, well, here's the deal. it's funny because there is a little bit of an emotional response, even with moving this silverware,
Yeah.
where I'm like, "Why, babe? Why did you move the silverware?"
Yeah.
She said,
Right.
"Because I moved it over closer to the plates. I put it in the drawer, so there's plates there, and so you get the plates down, open the drawer, there's the silverware. I had the silverware over there, and it wasn't." I'm like, "I know it makes sense, but doggone it makes me mad because I open up the wrong drawer sometimes." You know, and what's so hilarious is Stephanie is the master of that. Like it's the weirdest deal. I don't know. I don't know if she has a system to destabilize me or she has no system at all, which destabilizes me. But like I'll go into so we have a pantry
Yeah.
off the kitchen. And so I'll go into the pantry and and in my brain, I'm a mind mapper, right?
Right.
So in my brain, I can walk into the pantry and I already see where everything is. And I go to the third shelf. Okay. I go to the third shelf. I walk in, turn to the right, go on the third shelf. That's where the peanut butter is. Wait a minute. Where's the peanut butter? Steph, where's the peanut butter? And she's like, I put it over on the back wall. I'm like, why'd you put it on the back wall? Well, I just put it over there because that's where I put the cereal. I'm like, well, why'd you put the cereal over there? She's like, does it matter where the cereal is? Yes, it matters. It matters where the cereal is.
It's awesome.
And she's like, I put the cereal there because I bought new containers for them and the new containers wouldn't fit over there. So I put the cereal over there and peanut butter is in that same category. So I put the peanut butter there. Okay. All right, cool. Thank you for letting me know your system. I can accommodate that, put that in my brain. I can make the change until a month later when it's back over on the spot where it was before.
Yeah.
And we go through the whole thing. And I'm like, why is the peanut butter over there? And she's like, I don't know. And here's the deal. Well, one of the girls, they put the peanut butter up and they just walked in and put it where it always goes, right?
Right.
It's so weird how our mind and our entire way of the sense of the way things should be is not related to what is best or where it's best, but what is either
Yes.
comfortable or what is what my
Familiar.
expectation, familiarity, what my expectation is. So let me just run through these real quick. What we're used to, right? So as believers, we have to be willing to let go of our comfortable routines and habits that don't align with God's will or God's desire or plan for our lives.
Yeah.
What we're familiar with, sometimes we have to, as disciples, we have to be willing to embrace new ways of thinking and acting that reflect Jesus's teaching.
Right.
As disciples, sometimes we have to be not sometimes, always we have to be connected to or have to connect our identity to, right, the shifting sense of our identity from worldly values. We have to shift that over to Jesus because that won't ever change. You'll always be trying to modify and figure out what's next and change your life to associate with the change of the world. If Jesus isn't your identity. Finally, what we resist in the flesh or what we resist in the carnal, we have to overcome those things that hinder our spiritual growth. And even if those things have become familiar to us, and then what we resist because of unknowns, we have to trust God, right? We in uncertain situations or when God's taken us to places we've never been before, we have to be able to step out in faith. Here's the deal, which I think triggers this into a whole different kind of conversation, which is not what I like, what I'm familiar with, what I expect, whatever, but a firm conviction that Jesus is in control.
Yeah.
And that starts changing things to a whole different dimension.
I think that's ultimately the key, I think, of enduring, the hard part of change. Because here's the deal, right? We all know, Ken, we all know we should be eating healthier.
True.
We know our food's killing us,
Very
right?
true. Yeah, very
And,
true.
Sugars and all that kind of stuff or whatever. And, I'm not gonna go buy a box of EL Fudge double stuffs, but
Yeah.
if it's in the vicinity, I'm cleaning out the whole box or the whole package. Like, I'm wiping the whole thing out. You eat like 4, right? And you're like,
Why
"Man,
not eat
4."
14?
If exactly, if 4 is good, 14's even better, so just
Yep.
wipe out the whole sleeve and you'll be good
Yeah.
to go and
Yeah.
whatever, we know that, but the reality is, the reason we don't eat as healthy as we need to, even though it's gonna make us feel better,
Yeah.
it's gonna improve our quality of life, it's gonna improve our longevity, it's gonna, like, our vitality, all those kinds of things, we know that that's gonna happen, but why? Because because we because A, we become very, very habitual,
True.
right? We like what we like, and we wanna eat those things, and we develop um, a desire, an appetite. We desire an appetite for those things, and so when you're like, "Hey, I'm gonna stop eating that," man, you have those natural appetites and cravings that start to come up, and B, man, it just is really hard, bro.
Yeah.
It's just really hard to 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 I've told the story about in December, it'll be 14 years that I've had like Coke, Pepsi, Dr. Pepper, or anything like that. I've had like a Sprite or ginger ale or even, maybe an orange Fanta once
Yeah.
every couple of years or something like that. But I haven't had any Coke, Pepsi, Dr. Pepper, or anything like that at all, dark sodas, since December of 2010,
Yes.
right? And when I went through that process, the first 3, 4 weeks was miserable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Headaches and just constantly craving it and whatever. That's why people don't change, is because that pain is so strong and so powerful that we don't kind of go through that. We're not willing to do that. And that's why I think you have to be so radically committed, Ken, to the values, the things you just talked about, the ways of Jesus, the identity, the values of Jesus. You have to be so radically committed to that, because there is going to be, whether it's me as a personal disciple of Jesus going through personal change, or me as a change or as a leader trying to lead change, there's going to be that pushback because of what all the things that you listed there.
Mhm.
But we have to be so radically committed to the values of Jesus that we're willing to go through that process. I was willing to quit drinking soda because I knew it was bad. 3 to 4
Yeah.
32-ounce Cokes a day. I knew something had to change, and that's what you have to be committed to. You have to be committed to that so much that you're willing to go through that initial pain because of what you're gonna experience on the other side.
Man, that's so good. And, and so true, and such an experience of mine. Like, it's interesting because in some little bit of study that I've done about the neurology of habits, like
Mhm.
the actual neuroscience behind the
Sure.
fact that our brains are really literally they're geared toward they're biased. There we go. Our brains neurologically are biased toward efficiency. And so our brains start making interpretive decisions
Hmm.
based upon past experiences and results.
Sure.
And so what happens is, like, it's funny how in a lot of, especially talking about people that like escape from addictions, people who how we, the Bible says we're transformed by the renewing of our minds, that literally there are neural pathways that are developed in our brain by a couple of things. Number one, repeated actions.
Sure.
So we do it, we do it, we do it. It becomes that was what I was explaining with the silverware.
Yeah.
The other thing is that our brain sort of has its own intrinsic AI built in. Things that we don't consciously do, that our brain, like for example, like I don't consciously tell my white blood cells to go. I I I put a entire uh I put an entire, like it was a sliver on a board, and I'm building a deck. And so I was loading it back into, I'm like, I don't want that one. And I loaded it back in, and it hit the bar of the shelving, and
Mhm.
it stuck it. stuck through my finger.
Ooh.
It was like that far all the way up through my finger. You could see it, my finger. And when I pulled my finger away, thankfully it didn't splinter. But so my point is that the ruts that we have in our thinking, the ways that the things that we experience, or whatever, we've got sort of this built-in sort of subconscious. We don't think through it. My brain didn't think to send white blood cells to that, or I didn't consciously tell my body to do that. It was a natural. The brain also does that, just like your body has. It's called your parasympathetic system. Your brain also does the same thing. Your brain says, I have a certain expectation based on past experience, based upon, and in fact, I don't want to get too nerdy here, but I literally listened to a master class by a guy who was a neurologist that said that in REM sleep, that neurologists have actually, they've taken and they've watched what's going on in the brain while a person is in REM sleep. And he said there's a stage of REM sleep where your brain is literally like going through a file cabinet.
Wow.
And it's making connected associations with the events of today that associate with events in the past that you might not even remember. And so your brain's going, and it said that's why sometimes you could actually have these wacky dreams, and you go back and you think about it, like, why did I have that dream? And you realize, oh, that's hilarious. That's sort of related to this thing that happened in the day earlier. But what they're saying is the neuroscience behind it is that your brain is going through like million per second, like filings, that's finding associated memories and connecting them.
Right.
And so what happens is that if our brain does that in auto mode, then we have to realize that there are certain things that are embedded into the structural ways that people think and whatever, that's what produces a lot of your pain in change, right?
Yeah, right.
That your brain just is it's like the silverware. It's like, it's like, if somebody goes through and they say, hey, I went and I reorganized your tool chest for you in your garage.
Yeah.
Hey, for Father's Day, we went out and we reorganized your entire tool, and some guys would be like, what are you talking about? Now I'm not going to know where anything's at. It's so funny. It's a better system. Everything was to the onlooker. Everything was all over the place, so I think this is the thing whether we're talking about as disciples, whether we're talking about as leaders, or whatever it is, that you have to have a high level of pain tolerance to be able to say those things that have become embedded in my emotionally and mentally, and even in a neural way, are maybe working against literally what's best and what God wants to do.
Man, it's so good. It's so good. And I'm trying to keep an eye on the clock because I know there's a few things that we definitely want to kind of tag in and provide this as a resource, for pastors or for people for disciples dealing with, because discipleship is about change, right? What's the
100%.
definition of a disciple? Person that's willing to let Jesus change what you care about. And so,
change.
it's about change. And again, like you said, you can have a totally better way of doing things, a better system. I worked with a lady when I first started working at Solo. I worked across in a cubicle. Her name was Audra. And bro, you know me.
Yeah.
A, I'm a minimalist.
Yeah.
And B, I really, really, really like order. I like things in its place and whatever.
Right.
And Audra across from me, she would have, so you had like in the cubicle, the three sides had like a desk, three sides of a desk, right? And then the opening, she would have her papers laid out from the back part of the desk all the way around. She'd have all of her papers lined out, and it looked like absolute and complete chaos. is just crazy. Gave me hives looking at that.
Yeah.
That was her system. That's the way
Yeah.
she functioned, operated, right?
Yeah. It wasn't chaos to Audra.
Correct. But
Yeah.
when we came in and said, we're making some process changes, it freaked her out because she's got her process and the way things work. It was going to be more efficient. It was whatever. So we understand that as a disciple of Jesus, you have some preferential things, some things that you're familiar with, all that kind of stuff. And Jesus comes in and is like, man, you have to be able and be willing to change these places, even if it's places that you're comfortable with, whatever. So here's what I want to throw to you, Ken.
Okay. Talk
to us about, I don't know if this is the right way to phrase the question, but maybe directed towards leaders, but also I think it's applicable to disciples. But how do you cultivate, how do you develop that pain tolerance? How do you get to that place that you're willing just to endure whatever is needed and whatever is necessary? How do you foster that as a disciple, as a cultural leader? How do you foster that?
I think there are two ways that it's attempted, and one is preferable to the other, far preferable. So we talk about there's two kinds of change that pastors can try to implement. One of them is what we call incremental change, which is incremental change is what we talk about. Like the concept of incremental change is basically incremental improvement until we've refined out the structural dysfunctions that hinder us from having the results that we've always anticipated.
Yeah.
So we look at something and we say, my word, we've got great this and we've got great that. Why aren't we, outcome? Like we have this in place, we have this in place, we have this in place. Why not the outcome? What's wrong? And so I think that what happens is a lot of times, because of our understanding of the reluctance of change and the resistance to change and the desire for things to stay in all those places that we've discussed up until now, right? Not reiterating any of that, just say all those things we've talked about, from why we like the papers scattered the way we have them and why we like the silverware in the particular drawer, even if it's not the best place, and why we want the peanut butter. I don't want the peanut butter over by the cereal. I don't care even if you think it associates, I like it where all those things. I think that what happens is a mechanism to try to navigate through that is to use incremental change. Let's just keep refining it until the problem is that a particular system can only produce particular outputs. You can refine it to the nth degree until eventually it just doesn't, it just isn't capable of doing anything other than what it's capable of doing.
Yeah.
The other way is what we call an operating system change, which is a completely different kind of thing. It's not incremental change. It's not constant refinement and improvement. It's actually doing something completely different.
Right.
That is, to me, one of the most difficult kinds of change. So we can use marketing. We can use like methods of marketing to incite people to accept incremental change and refinements to a better, we're going to have a better product.
Right.
So you can use marketing and you can market it and you can say, we're doing it because of this. I know we've never done it that way, but here's why we're changing. And this is the thing. And this is whatever. And those are all like marketing techniques. And you can create, churches do this. Like they create like literally marketing strategies.
Sure.
They do graphics and they do a launch and they've got the the screens and the banners, and people walk in and they're handing stuff out to them, and it's like going into Target, and Target's going to change the way they, or whatever store, and they've got people there greeting you. It's going to be better. Here's what we're doing, and on the other end of the spectrum, if you're going to do systemic change,
Yeah.
then that for people to accept that kind of change, they have to develop a deep conviction around a new set of values.
Yes.
And so,
Yes.
and so the problem is that sometimes what happens is leaders want to use the old framework of change management in a new environment of systemic change. In other words, I want to use the marketing system that I've always used to try to incite change in people.
Yeah.
That works where it's incremental improvement and refinement. But I want to use I want to market it the same way. So what does that look like? Okay. So the simple bottom line answer, I believe, to your question is that what it requires at the end of the day, if you want true, deep, systemic change,
Yeah.
you have to create a discipleship culture. You have to create a culture where everybody is on the same page. They accept the paradigm that says, if it's the Jesus way, it's the better
Yes.
way. And I
Yes.
don't care what my way is. And if you can create that culture in people in their everyday life, if you could create that as far as the way that the reason why they take care of their bodies, the reason why they pray, the reason
Sure.
why whatever, if
Sure.
you could get people to do that in an individual way, then when you start saying in a corporate setting, or you start saying we're going here because, or the Spirit says, if you have to market that to people to try to get them to shift, then they'll just drag their feet and they'll go, I ain't doing it.
Yeah.
But if you create a discipling culture and you say, this is the Jesus way, this is the kingdom way, this is the better way, people may still have an initial negative reaction to it, but they're willing to endure the pain tolerance because they've accepted this idea that disciples are willing to let Jesus change what they care about.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And we see this in the life of Jesus, and the example that he gave us. And one of the things I think that was critical and it was key was he demonstrated, so he modeled the kingdom, the
Right.
kingdom better. So he modeled
Right.
it for people,
Mhm.
and then he articulated why living this way
Yeah.
is the better way, why it's important. I think a lot of times what happens is we start with the why, and people don't know what it looks like or what it means or how
So
you
true.
live that out. And that's why again, we believe,
The
the
deeper the
yeah.
the deeper model that we had our large cohort the other night.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And this is why I think it's important that you gather in the hottest coals, which is what Jesus did, and you pour into them, the most disciplable people, you pour into them those values, and let them be the billboard, let them be the demonstration to
So
people, like,
true.
this is what we're talking about, because again, without seeing it or understanding it, people create this concept and idea of what you're talking about, and it may be similar, or it may not be exactly what it looks like. And so they're like, I don't want to do that because that make any sense. But when you have people living it out and they're able to tell the stories and they're able to demonstrate and show this is what the
Mhm.
kingdom way is like, then that gives you the platform and the opportunity to explain, see, this is why
Mhm.
we're making these changes. This is why we're saying this is the better way. And when people
Mhm.
see it, they see it lived out and they see it demonstrated, and then you're able to give the explanation based on that story. They're able to connect those two,
Mhm.
and that now draws in, again, the most disciplable people, and you start keep drawing them in and keep drawing them in and let them become, the billboard for it. This is why we believe in this so much, because a lot of times I think what happens is, okay, so just talking to leaders,
Mhm.
right? Pastors. there is the fear when you
Yeah.
start leading change,
Uh,
and all of a sudden, man, like, it gets rocky and unstable. Now all of a sudden, like, what if we, what if people start bailing? What if they start jumping ship?
yeah.
And the danger of that is then you start kind of like catering
Yeah.
to those things, and it's I'm not throwing shade here. I'm not saying this is the deal, but this is why, like, politics don't work, is because you basically have to pander to certain people to garner their votes.
Yeah.
Like, you have to
Yeah.
do that to make it happen. You
Yeah.
can't
Well,
just
like
stand on your
Biden,
values.
Fox News, right? I just saw a thing. Biden says these are the things that we're going to do to not have to deport. After just a month ago, making this bold, like we're going to make this new law, people aren't going to be able to come into the country.
Yeah.
Now he's saying, but this is the way we're going to make sure that the people that are here get to stay. And what is this? It's like it's pandering to a voter base, because there was part of the voter base that went nuts when he said we're going to shut the border down.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, right. So politics doesn't work
It doesn't work.
because people will dig their heels in and say, I don't care. It's going to be my way or it's going to be no way.
Yeah. And the pain, sometimes that pain for a leader and a pain for a disciple in the process is a great revealer of
Yeah.
where there are things that need to be addressed and transformed and changed.
Mm.
And so the reason I think this is such an important concept, Ken, is because we live in a world that is radically committed to making life as comfortable as possible.
That's so core. That's so core.
So this is so, we're not attempting to be countercultural, but this is so countercultural.
Yeah.
We do everything to bring in more conveniences and make our lives more convenient, more comfortable, and then you start pushing back. And this is why I think it is what you said is so critical, Ken, because the life of a disciple of Jesus inherently brings in sacrifice.
Bro.
The model of Jesus, for the joy that was set before him, he's willing to endure the shame and the suffering of the cross. Like, it is inherently, intrinsically a part of discipleship that you're going to be discomforted. And we hate that. We don't like that in our culture. We don't want that in our world. But pain is a necessary part to move us out of our comfort.
All right. So can I? Oh man, I'm gonna do something I don't know if I've ever done on a podcast.
Oh boy, here we go.
But do you mind if I demonstrate
it
a little bit? All right. So we talk about having spiritual conversations. We talk about leading with questions and whatever. So I mean, Chris, just play along maybe a little bit.
Sure.
So in a spiritual conversation context or whatever, what I would probably do is if Chris were experiencing some trepidation, or there was some amount of like you just said, we try to be comfortable, we want to be secure, safety, whatever, all the things that we lost when we were kicked out of the garden.
Yeah.
So I probably would start with this question, and I would ask him this question if he was going through that. Is I would probably ask the question, Chris, do you believe Jesus is a disruptor?
Well, yeah. I mean, there's definitely examples. He went into the temple and flipped tables, and certainly seemed like part of his mission was to disrupt particularly religious stuff and whatever. So yeah, I'd say for sure.
So the kingdom that Jesus introduced, you would say that the kingdom that Jesus introduced was disruptive both to the religious elite, the religious system, and even the expectations of what people had for who and what the Messiah would be, right? Jesus disrupted that too.
Oh, absolutely.
Why do you think Jesus is a disruptor?
That's a really good question. Well, I would say he's a disruptor because people have a way of altering what would be the better way, or the best way of doing things. They alter it for what like fits them and what they would prefer and what they would like, versus the true way or the right way to do it.
I think that's a great response, because I think what you're saying there is Jesus is a disruptor because he's got a better way. Jesus isn't a disruptor. Jesus isn't a disruptor. What I'm hearing you say is Jesus isn't a disruptor just because he's Lord, not just because he's sovereign. In other words, he's got the power to do it. He
Right.
can do it if he wants to,
Sure.
which is true.
Sure.
But because he's sovereign and because he's Lord, what does Jesus know about his way versus our way? What would you say to that? What if I asked you? I'd say, because Jesus is Lord, because he's sovereign, because he's omniscient, because he's omnipotent, whatever. What does Jesus view his way versus our way?
Well, his way's perfect. Mine's going to be flawed.
Yeah, right.
I'm limited. I don't know the future. I don't know what lies ahead. Like, he knows all of that. So he's able to factor it all in.
Yeah. So then the last question I would have then is, so based on those kinds of things, what would you say when you read the scripture where he says, if any man comes after me, he must first deny himself? What do you think Jesus was trying to set up in your own walk with God, or your discipleship as a follower? What do you think he was trying to, do you think Jesus was just trying to say, it's my way or the highway? Or was Jesus trying to do you feel like he was maybe trying to create something in you to harmonize with the way the better?
Yeah, certainly seems like if I'm gonna experience his better way, I have to be willing to release what I think is the better way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So based on that, how do you think you should live?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
You gotta surrender it all.
yeah. So that's based on, like, Chris and I sometimes talk about the indicatives create the imperatives, is the sort of fruit to root type stuff for
Yeah.
the four things. Who is God? He's a disruptor. What has he done? He has disrupt our way to bring in a better way. Who am I because of what he's done? I'm a person who's living out the better of the kingdom. How then should I live? As one who understands that my way is not as good as his way.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
and I think that is a discipleship culture.
And I think that's a great conversation right there, and I love the way you just kinda walked through and modeled that, because I do think one of the things that we often don't do on the other side, so we talked about the emotional side on people that resist change. On the other side, you can also do the same thing and kind of like, well, you need to change, but we never walk through what you just walked through for people to really understand and grasp why that's important, and then we get frustrated because they're not changing, and
Yeah.
we match their energy of resistance.
And what's amazing is like you mentioned earlier, this is the thing that caused me to think that, and
Yeah.
thanks for playing along with that. But because I do think modeling it, the deeper model, right?
Yeah,
You have to
sure.
demonstrate it,
Yeah.
first, so that they can experience it, then explain it. This is what we're doing.
Yeah.
We demonstrate it. People got to experience it. Now we're explaining it. Now we say, now practice it. Right.
Right.
And then in practicing, we can come back, which exposes places where you got it right and places where you need to improve or didn't get it right. And then finally, to reflect on it.
Yeah.
Right. That's the
Yeah.
deeper model. Reflect on it so that it becomes part of who and what you are. But what you said, the reason why I brought that up is because earlier you said two things. Number one, we as humans have a tendency to have safety and security and predictability.
Yeah.
And number two, the church has almost created a growth model that absolutely will not confront that.
Sure.
The church has created most
Absolutely.
Western churches have created a model that says, we're not going to make people unhappy. We're not going to make people uncomfortable. We're not going to make people feel like,
Absolutely.
right. So
Absolutely.
the idea is the moment that, so why do you have to walk a believer through this place of saying, do you believe Jesus is a disruptor? Because if if the church has framed my way of thinking that the church's job is to make me happy, and the church's job is to take away the pressure of life, and life's hard enough, whatever. The way that Jesus counteracts life is hard enough is to give you a better life that's kingdom down.
So good.
And so it
So good.
requires us to be able to go through that pain tolerance. But the problem is if we try to market it to people are like, yeah, I'm just not buying what you're selling, bro. But if you create a
Right.
discipling culture where you say, okay, well, do you believe Jesus is a disruptor? Why is he a disruptor? Is he
Yeah.
just a mean God that says, I want to unsettle you? I just want to unsettle your life. Why? Why would God want to do that? Well, because he's sovereign and he's Lord and he's got the right to. No, that's not why. Because he knows you will dig your heels in, Chris Dillingham, Ken Dillingham. He knows you will dig your heels in and try to do everything you can to protect your turf and to anchor your familiarity. And he says, and those are the very things that are going to keep you from the better I'm offering you.
Man, that's so good. That's so good. That's a great finale there. I think wraps it up so beautifully, wraps it up so good. And appreciate everybody being on today, Ken. I know we didn't have as much engagement because we knew we had a lot to address and a lot to kind of deal with and go through. Change and pain are a part of our lives.
Very true.
I mean, whether we like it or not, pain and change are a part of our lives. And is God going to use it for the betterment of his kingdom and improvement, growth areas in our lives? Or is it going to be something that we resist and we fight against? And the best thing you can do is embrace it all, even the pain, embrace it and let that produce the nature and the character of Jesus in our lives. And so good, man. So appreciate everybody joining us today and being a part of the conversation.
Yeah.
And if you have any questions, Ken, we would love for people to connect with us.
Very true.
Right?
Yeah.
We'd love to do that. If you're a pastor and would like more information about how to go through this process, go through this pain, you can check us out at thedillinghamgroup.org. Check out, I think on our Facebook page, we have a Linktree link, and it's got some information for you, an assessment that you can fill out, and we'll produce a personalized report for you. So go check that out, all of our social media sites, all that good stuff. And we are so thankful for everybody that joins us every single week. Great crowd on all the platforms today, and we really appreciate that. So we look forward to coming back to you next Tuesday around 10 o'clock. Until then,